Hey guys, so I know I said I would try and move away on my channel from the political stuff or the gender stuff, but I just wanted to get this out there because I keep hearing this come up in discussions and it is just driving me insane. So, what a lot of you guys might not know is that in addition to being a psychology major and getting my associates in psychology, I am also getting an associate's in anthropology. It was actually really easy. I just had to take a few more classes. I loved the discipline so much that it was worth it to me. Sociology, that's a whole nother can of worms. I might get a sociology associates if it's, like actual social science and not just political opinions, but that's a whole nother rant. So, one dogma that's really taught in anthropology, which I definitely disagree with. And I kind of feel bad about this because anthropology is supposed to be such a scientific discipline. You know what I mean? Like, you're literally, at least for the biological anthropology, you're studying physical evidence. And same thing with archaeology, there's physical evidence. Even with linguistic anthropology and cultural anthropology, you're analyzing the things that are physically in front of you. Um, so the fact that it's kind of been taken over by postmodernism is really disappointing to see. And the funny thing about anthropology is that it actually used to be way on the other side in terms of being like really racist and really demeaning towards non-Western cultures. But anyway, this main dogma of anthropology, which I really disagree with, is cultural relativism. And that's basically that you can't judge what other cultures do because you don't understand their culture. And my question to a lot of the people who preach this would be, well, we criticize things within our own culture, right? We criticize all the bad things that happen in our own culture. So why is it that our own culture deserves criticism and other cultures do not? And this has led, I believe, to a range, to a whole group of people, mostly people online, who are like, "Oh my God, I wish I was in this culture because they would accept my trans identity more." Or a lot of the times they bring up Native American culture, like, "Oh, this Native American culture had a third gender. If I were just part of that culture, they would accept me more." And or, this African culture had it right before colonization took over. And the thing about that is, like, do you not think that there wasn't, torture and murder and rape and, war and just all of those universal faults of the human experience? Like, do you really not think there is poverty? I mean, in terms of I mean, because they often mention these indigenous civilizations that were, quite a few centuries ago. I mean, they do also mention um, modern cultures that are non-Western. But do you not think that all those cultures had those things? Do you not think that they had like a version of fascism, um, totalitarianism of any kind of stripe? I mean, a lot of times the rulers of indigenous civilizations were, self-appointed, divinely appointed rulers who would just rule everything. Like, do you not think that every single bad thing about Western culture is also in some form in a non-Western culture or a previous indigenous culture? Do you not think that? Like, how blind do you have to be to not think that? And honestly, I think the real motivation behind this is because it's kind of like, how American right-wing Christians will say, oh, Muslims are bad, Muslims are bad, Muslims are bad. But, and this is a point that the left has correctly assumed, I think, the reason why they're truly so against Muslims is because they think Muslims are brown people. And so I think with these far leftists, idolizing these non-Western cultures, it's because they think non-Western cultures are brown and black people. And so they must be good. Like, I think both sides kind of have that, that racism that they don't even want to acknowledge kind of embedded in them. And I think it's very similar to benevolent sexism, the idea that, oh, women are just so innocent and pure and they can't do bad things. And if a woman is accused of this horrible crime, well, she must have not done it, or there must have been some other factor, because how could women ever do something like that? And I think that's a similar line of thinking when it's like, oh my God, this culture is just so beautiful and I just wish I was part of this culture because they would accept me. It's like, you really think that because, it's not a white culture, not a white culture, that it's somehow better? Like, if there's one thing that I've learned from anthropology, and ironically, a lot of anthropology teachers don't teach this, but if you just look at the evidence and you look at history, you will find this out pretty quickly, is that humans are all the fucking same, okay? Humans are the same. We are all nasty, vicious creatures. Doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter your sex, doesn't matter your culture. Sure, there are some psychopaths out there who are pathologically a little more inclined to doing bad things, but ultimately we're all capable of doing bad things because we're all human. And one really prime example of this, and one annoying thing that I see that keeps being brought up in the discourse of how to deal with climate change, like, oh, colonialization, capitalism, and whiteness is all responsible for climate change. Well, did you know that the the Inca also cut and burned down large patches of land, massive trees. Um, Now, they didn't have climate change at that time, and I will tell you why. Because there just weren't enough people to cause that kind of damage. But if there were enough people, you better believe it, they would have caused climate change, because they were doing the exact same thing that capitalists do, that capitalist, globalist, Western society do in terms of destroying the ecosystem. Um, so them being from a different culture didn't change anything. Them having an economic system different from the current one today didn't change anything. They still did the same thing. Not to mention that human sacrifice was a big thing in many South American cultures. Not quite as big as it's been portrayed in the media, but still a very prominent thing. Um, and also, there was um, a lot of young girls who were sold into sex slavery, pretty much. There was all these weird puritanical beliefs about virginity. All of those things were present in um, Southern American and Central American cultures, and of course in African cultures and Middle Eastern cultures and Asian cultures, in every single culture you could find. And it just blows my mind how people don't understand this. Um, and that reminds me of something that happened a couple months ago. And this is again my beef with sociology. It might just be that, this particular sociology teacher teaches sociology a different way, because I'm listening to a book on sociology right now, and it's very different from what that teacher teaches. But anyway, so I went to it was after, I think, some particular mass shootings. I don't remember which ones because they're just so common in America nowadays, unfortunately. And So I went to this. We have all kinds of seminars and events at my community college, right? And so this seminar was on the Second Amendment. It was supposed to spark a conversation. It was supposed to talk about mass shootings and gun control and all that, right? And I won't say my views on that just for the sake of brevity and also because I'm trying to steer more away from politics here. This will be my last political rant for quite a while, I promise you. So I won't say my views on that, but I will just say that, of course, it was dominated by the pro gun control people, and they were pretty extreme. Like they were saying like no one should have a gun. Like, and there were some people, who were on the other side, and even though it was supposed to spark a conversation and all views were welcome, well, guess what? That didn't happen. They just got shot down. The people who are on the other side, and I don't think that's fair. But anyway, we were actually having a good conversation about the Second Amendment and gun control. And of course, and no shame on him. He's actually a really cool person, but his political views are a little. Anyway, my sociology teacher gives this lecture on why he thinks mass shootings are happening. And, he said, in, my opinion, on as to why they're happening is that it's a combination of easy access to guns in America and mental illness. But he said it has nothing to do with mental illness. Access to guns has remained the same, which he didn't cite any evidence for either of that. He said the real reason why mass shootings keep happening in the U.S. and are increasing is because white people are afraid because their privilege is being taken away. That's literally what he said. Like, I, I don't even know how to respond to that. That is just so monumentally stupid. And like, how do you think you're going to get people on your side by demonizing demographics of people? Like, really, you think like the conservatives are going to be like, oh yeah, I guess white people are prone to violence. Like, and obviously replace that with any other group and it wouldn't be okay. And you want to know the irony of all this? Of course, you're going to guess. He is the exact same group he was talking about. He is a white, cis, straight man. Now, I don't know if he identifies as elsewhere, but that's what he is. Um, he is Latino, but still white. So, like, seriously, dude. Like, the cognitive dissonance. And, like, this whole white people bad rhetoric is really not helping anything. Like, I do think BLM has a point. Police brutality is a really horrible thing. And you really think this kind of rhetoric is going to get us anywhere in that regards? Like, seriously? Anyway, I know this was kind of tangential. I just wanted to rant. If you take one thing from this video, it's that people are all the same and people are all prone to the bad things about humanity. So hope you guys at least enjoyed my rant, and thanks for watching.